never let your friend create a Bumble account for you. Allow me to explain.
The unluckiest girl in the world, that's me!
This whole adventure started because my friend Sarah and I were bored at work. We were interning together for a theater company as box office assistants, and so we had a lot of downtime. Sarah decided that I should be putting myself out there, so she made a Bumble profile for me and started swiping on and messaging people on my behalf. She found some that she approved of, and once she felt they had been properly vetted, she passed the conversations off to me. I only ever met 2 of these boys, and this is the story of those disastrous dates. The first guy, to compare him to a saltine cracker would be unfair to the cracker, because even that has too much flavor. This was the most boring white boy I have ever met in my life. He was like a saltine cracker sans the salt. He took me to dinner at a restaurant called Uniboil, not kidding, which is a place where you make your own soup. To be clear, there is a burner at the center of the table, and there is a pot on that burner, and there's a divider in the middle of the pot. So I make my own personal soup on my side, and he makes his personal soup on his side. You can add meat, you can add noodles, you can add vegetables, whatever you want. Now, I am not the most coordinated person on the planet, so this seemed like a bad idea before I even knew what else was going to go into eating this. The noodles that went into this soup were each roughly a foot long, which is problematic at the best of times, but is made even worse because of the utensils that we were given. Chopsticks and a spoon. I never learned how to use chopsticks, but I'm pretty sure even if I had, I still would have questioned that choice. But as I looked at the options before me, I realized that this was a very special moment. For decades, human beings have wondered what the purpose of a spork is. And I have solved life's greatest mystery. It is for eating soup at Uniboil. And these fools didn't even give me one. So as I'm struggling to eat this soup, I eventually resorted to aimlessly stabbing at it with a solitary chopstick. So as I'm experiencing the single most frustrating meal of my life, Saltine Boy is trying to convince me of how interesting he is. He starts telling me about how he's traveled to all these exotic places like Garden Grove and Riverside, and about all the activities he's into, like playing Call of Duty and wearing V-neck t-shirts. I am fairly certain that he chose this restaurant to try to prove how interesting he was. But the most interesting thing about this had nothing to do with him, and everything to do with me trying not to splash soup all over myself when the things I've impaled on my chopstick inevitably fall off into the infuriating mess in front of me. Eventually, I just gave up. We had planned for dinner and a movie, so we went to go see Toy Story 4. Personally, I think this is the worst of the Toy Story movies. Unpopular opinion, huh? But I have never been more glad to sit in a mediocre movie, because it meant that I not only didn't have to talk to the boy next to me, but also I was far away from that infuriating soup. But to add insult to injury, one of the main characters in Toy Story 4 is a spork named Forky. Forky sat there mocking me, telling me he was trash the whole movie when he knew full well I could have used one of him 15 minutes ago. That was just rude. After the movie, Saltine Boy told me that I was very interesting and said, "We should do this again." I non-committally said, "Yeah." And I never saw him again. The other guy met up with me at a Panera, and I was very relieved at the opportunity to eat some spoon-compatible soup. We talked for a while, and then he asked if I wanted to go watch the sunset with his sister and her husband. I said sure, and I drove myself in my own car behind him to a new location to watch the sunset. Now, I'm sure you've seen in movies, like, the guy always picks some romantic places overlooking the ocean or a meadow or like forest or something to watch the end of the day. This guy picked an industrial plant. I asked where his sister and his brother-in-law were, and he said, and I quote, "Oh, they had to go catch their guinea pigs, so they won't make it." With no further explanation. He said it nonchalantly, as if he could have been giving an actual reason people give to not go somewhere, like, they're not feeling well, or they just couldn't make it. But he might as well have been saying, oh, my brother and sister-in-law can't make it. They're currently taking down a crime boss with nothing but a paperclip and a hair tie. With one sentence, my mind was no longer on this date. It was far away. All I could think about was what kind of situation involving guinea pigs could possibly keep two whole people from leaving their home. How many guinea pigs were there? What happened to the guinea pigs? Were they okay? All of these questions rolled through my head as I watched the sunset over the industrial plant, my mind still squarely focused on guinea pigs. In my mind's eye, there were hundreds of thousands of them, just roaming free while two disheveled people chased them relentlessly around the house, pulling these little rodents from under furniture. And I can tell you this for certain. I don't remember that boy's name. And I could not pick him out of a lineup if my life depended on it. But his comment about guinea pigs will haunt me for the rest of my life.
When all is going wrong and you're scared as hell, what you gonna do, who you gonna tell? Maybe 100 bad days made 100 good stories. 100 good stories made me interesting at parties. 100 bad days made 100 good stories. 100 good stories made me interesting at parties. Yeah, no, I ain't scared.